A courtroom in New York just got a whole lot more interesting with Nicolás Maduro sitting there, far from his power base in Venezuela. The airstrikes are history, the press conferences are over. But trust me, that's just the start of something huge. What went down in Venezuela isn't some legal showdown, it's tied into this massive web of resources, trade lines, and money systems that basically run the world. For years, things built up under the radar. Sanctions got tougher, cash flows dried up, energy deals flipped around, and China kept pushing deeper into South America. Venezuela didn't just pop up out of nowhere. This fast strike is the end of a slow burn where talks turned into muscle, and straight-up business logic shoved diplomacy aside. Why hit now? That's the big question, especially when the official story keeps changing. Those inconsistencies in what they say? They tell you more than the words themselves. Turn on the TV, and it's the same clip on repeat, special ops dropping in at night, snagging a Latin American leader. But here's the thing, the people who control key stuff like oil? They don't hold on to it forever without it coming back to bite. America pushed against that for 23 years. Hitting Venezuela with everything, freezing money, backing fake governments, funding rebels, short of actually invading. Until it all came crashing down crystal clear. December 28, Maduro signs off on $18 billion in energy deals with China. A couple days later, the system Washington's been after for 2 decades gets rocked. They sold you this story about the shale boom making the US energy independent, the biggest oil producer around. No more stressing over the Middle East or Latin America. But that's only half right. Our oil is this light. Expensive to get stuff that doesn't work with the refineries we built way back. Those were made for the heavy, sour crude from places like Venezuela or the Gulf. We're pumping out the fancy stuff. But our setup needs the thick, gritty kind. We fixed that for decades by pulling in heavy oil from Saudi Arabia. But that deal's dead now. Riyadh's cutting production to keep prices up, teaming up with BRICS, and blowing off calls from DC. The Crown Prince is like, nah, I'm done being your sidekick. So we end up with this simple math issue, running low on the exact oil to keep refineries at full speed. And on top of that, we'd already tapped out our emergency stock. In the last couple years, the folks in charge drained the strategic petroleum reserve, not for real crises like wars, but to keep gas cheap and score points before elections. They dumped millions of barrels after Ukraine started. Now it's at rock bottom since the 80s. Just 351 million barrels, with 180 million let loose in 2022 alone. And nothing put back. Experts are predicting a 1.2 million barrel daily shortage in 2025 if things heat up with Iran and Russian sanctions stick. Looking around the world for heavy oil options, Russia's off the table. Hostile and sanctioned. Leaves one big choice, the huge heavy fields in the Orinoco area. Production's way down, but why does it matter big picture? It's not about today's output. It's about owning the future supply. For 50 years, the Petrodollar has created this automatic need for US dollars, you want oil. You need bucks to buy it. That lets us borrow cheap, print money without instant inflation hits, and handle debt easier than we should be able to. But it's cracking apart. Saudis didn't renew their dollar-only deal. BRICS countries are swapping energy in their own currencies or yuan. Venezuela was about to fully hook into China's payment systems, pricing oil in a mix led by yuan. If that happened, China grabs Venezuelan oil without dollars, demand for bucks drops. The dollar weakens, and our debt costs go through the roof. The real risk? Not 1 million barrels a day to China, but Venezuela's 300 billion barrel stash breaking free from the dollar system. Washington couldn't let that go. The dollar hasn't been backed by gold since '71. Or by factories, we've hollowed those out. It's based on that old Saudi agreement, sell oil in dollars. Everyone needs oil, so they chase dollars. That's powered our good times for half a century. But the magic's fading, the 2024 deal expired. No renewal. Now Saudis trade with China in yuan. Russia sells to India in rupees and rubles. Non-dollar oil deals are over $500 billion, growing 30% a year. China used to take less than 2% of Latin America's exports. Now they're the top trading partner down there. Brazil deals more with them than us. Same for Peru, Chile. 22 out of 33 Latin and Caribbean countries signed up for China's Belt and Road. It's not just numbers, it's real stuff like owning ports in Peru, Brazil, Panama, Ecuador. That new Chanqui port in Peru? Set up to ship from 6 countries straight to Asia, cutting us out completely. So when you hear about Venezuela, get the big picture. America's traditional backyard is shifting economically to Beijing. Ports, railroads, energy deals, payment setups all moving that way. Projection said Venezuela could hit 1.4 million barrels a day in 18 months with the right boost. China loaned them $62 billion from 2007 to 2024, backed by oil shipments. We threw money at Juan Guaido. Calling him president even though he never controlled a thing became a global joke by 2023. We offered limited ops for companies like Chevron, but with catches. That failed because Maduro learned, don't trust US offers that come with strings. The final spark, Intel reports the media ignored, saying Caracas was prepping the nuclear option, full switch to non-dollar energy payments. That would have shown the whole global south you can have huge resources outside US banks and make it work. Washington saw it as a total threat. They had a choice, accept the multipolar world and negotiate like equals, or use the one thing they've got plenty of, a military power. They picked the military. Tactically, it was spot on. Delta Force grabs Maduro from his place. No US casualties, ships him to New York for sealed 2020 charges. Trump couldn't hold back at the presser. It was amazing. These guys moved so fast, watching live from Mar-a-Lago like it was his show. But the flash is over, now come the real effects. Rubio and the team got hammered with questions. Who's in charge of Venezuela now? How long are our troops staying? What's the governance plan? They had nothing. Trump did say US oil companies would go in and rebuild their energy sector. Pathetic how little they're producing with those reserves. We'll fix it. Rubio talks governance, but Trump let slip it's about the resources. This isn't like 1989 when Bush Sr. took out Noriega in Panama, small country, big US base there. Venezuela's got 30 million people. No such setup. Maduro wasn't a solo act. He came up in the Cavista system, a network of generals, intel chiefs, judges, and paramilitary groups called collectivos that run everything from ports to food. Defense ministers still there. Interior Guy Cabello, a regime heavyweight. VP Delcy Rodriguez too. They've got way more generals per soldier than anywhere, 20 times normal, and each one controls something like mining, ports, oil. The military doesn't just protect, it is the economy. Tactically brilliant, but strategically a disaster because the world's watching. Countries in the global south, from Nigeria to Brazil to Indonesia, are looking at this and thinking, if we stop selling resources in dollars, are we next? That kind of fear doesn't build loyalty, it pushes people away. At the 2024 BRICS summit in Kazan, Putin rolled out BRICS Pay, a blockchain system to skip the dollar completely. Brazil's testing it for farm trade. South Africa did a diamond deal. Iran and Russia handle arms through it. Venezuela's applying for full membership. If they get in, their 303.8 billion barrels get plugged into a setup totally cut off from Washington. China officially took 800k barrels a day from Venezuela last year, but real numbers are probably double through Hong Kong back channels. Russia got kicked from SWIFT in 2022. Now their system handles 30% of payments, linking 159 institutions in 20 countries. China's CIPS from 2015 connects 1,000 firms from 223 banks in 109 countries, processing $436 billion daily outside dollar systems. The 2023 BRICS expansion added Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, Egypt, Ethiopia, that's 45% of the world's people, 36% of global GDP in purchasing power, and 72% of proven oil reserves. By going into Venezuela to grab the fields, the US basically proved why the world needs alternatives. It backed up every speech from Putin and Xi about American overreach and aggression. Before this, people used dollars because it was easy, stable, and the setup was there. After? Countries will ditch it because holding US assets means you're exposed, your independence is on thin ice. The Petrodollar isn't a fair trade deal anymore, it's like a hostage setup. Trump thinks he's showing strength, America's back. We project power anywhere, no permission needed. But what he's really showing is desperation. A real powerhouse doesn't invade for resources. It offers the best deals around. India sees it, Brazil sees it. Even allies like France and Germany get it, they're just not saying it out loud yet. This whole Venezuela thing did the opposite of what it was supposed to: secure oil access and lock in dollar power. Instead, it sped up the shift away from dollars and showed that while US military is still strong, the strategy's fragile. You can win every fight and still lose the war. The roads ahead? All messy. Best case, US makes deals with what's left of the government and opposition, sets up a transition team, renegotiates oil contracts, redirects money flows. But that needs everyone on board and years to build real structures. Or it breaks apart, government splits. Local bosses take over, some areas with old loyalists, others rebels or gangs filling the gaps. Oil stays offline, no investment. Humanitarian mess gets worse, like Iraq or Libya. Or China doesn't buy it, uses its pull in Latin America to isolate US-backed stuff, turning Venezuela into a long-econ battlefield. None of these wrap up fast, and the Trump team hasn't said which way they're going or how they'll handle the chaos. Markets are betting on the happy ending: Venezuelan oil back online in dollars, flowing to our refineries and allies. But remember, Libya was supposed to settle quick. Afghanistan goes smooth. Taking out governments is easy. Building working ones is insanely hard. And nobody in DC seems to be asking, what if this flops? What if other Latin countries decide dealing with the US is too risky? The news cycle will move on soon, maybe to Greenland, Canada, or whatever Trump tweets at, but the damage is locked in. That 80-year system of rules, respecting borders, using force only as a last resort, it's torn up. You can't fix trust with press releases. Finance folks say the dollar era's ending because the US just showed it's not about mutual wins anymore, it's arm twisting. Change was coming anyway. But what's next? Way more complicated than the people calling the shots are ready for.